everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Manhattans Project. I'm your host, Jenny Allen, Marketing Manager here at 10th Magnitude, and I'm joined today by Brian Blanchard, our VP of Cloud Solutions, as well as Mark Johnson, our Cloud Solution Architect. Thanks for joining me, and cheers to another great episode of the Manhattans Project. So today we're going to talk about a wildly popular subject, the Industrial Internet of Things. Industrial IoT is essentially the use of IoT technologies in manufacturing and other industries that involve a lot of complex physical machinery, as well as network sensors, software. So that's a pretty simplified definition. So how would you define it, and how does this differ from the IoT that you see consumers using, like in smart homes and wearables?
That's a great question. You want to take a stab at it?
Sure. So industrial IoT, in my mind, is basically something that companies will use to further their either processes, meaning if a manufacturer can increase their production on a production line or make their clients happier, whereas in homes it's usually something to ease your life, meaning you're like the Nest thermostat, it learns your habits. In home I usually see it in a learning scenario. What do you think?
I think that's great, a great addition. And boiling that down a little bit, I think it's fairly easy. When you're at home, it's all about comfort and control, like you said. When you're in the business, it's all about profitability. How can we touch the field in a way we couldn't previously to make us a more profitable business?
Right. So what are some of the benefits of industrial IoT, and how are you seeing it used? What are some of the business use cases?
That could be a pretty long list for us.
Right.
We're doing a lot in the industrial IoT space. One of our oldest examples that we started to work with early on was in the machinery, moving machinery space. So street sweepers, construction equipment, things along those lines, tracking where they're at, what they're doing, how things are wearing down, and things along those lines. The initial benefit in those type of use cases was pretty simple. If we could understand when a part was going bad ahead of time, we could swap that part when it was convenient and slow down the impact on the line. But what we really learned is that that's just kind of scraping the surface. What really comes out of that is when you understand how the real world is relating to your business, you can reshape your whole business.
Certainly.
So for instance, looking at the front piece of equipment on a big construction project, if the first line of equipment's a jackhammer, and that jackhammer starts to replace parts faster and we know about it, then swap parts. That's great, you sped up the whole line. But more importantly, if you study trends and behavior patterns over time, you can deduce from that jackhammer's usage how the rest of the entire project's going. And know that if he's using that part too quickly, well, that means that the steamroller behind him is going to run more slowly.
Right.
And that means that the guy 7 or 8 steps behind, he's behind on the project. And the jackhammer guy is jackhammering at a faster rate because he's got to get ahead of schedule for everyone else. So that gives you time to catch a deviation on a project 1, 2, 6 months before you'd otherwise find out and change your entire delivery mechanism.
That's a pretty fascinating example there. But so obviously we know it's used in manufacturing and construction. What are some other popular industries that are utilizing industrial IoT?
There are a bunch. Like you said, there's manufacturing, retail, let's see, automotive, transportation, I guess that's under automotive. Healthcare is a great one.
Why don't you tell me about that healthcare project you're working on for the elderly patients?
So this is a really interesting one. It falls under healthcare, and it's basically a home monitoring solution for like you said, elderly patients who are basically beyond the point of being in a hospital. They don't really need to be, but they still need to be monitored. And being home for an elderly patient really extends not only their quality of life, but also their likelihood of living longer. But they still need to be monitored. So being able to monitor things like blood pressure, weight, other different variables that might go into health monitoring. But a doctor can look at that from afar. So being able to monitor those things for an elderly patient at home is huge.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, and I think going back to your ask about the definition before, those were all consumer grade types of products. You know, we've all seen a Fitbit, and we've all stepped on a scale at some point in time.
Unfortunately.
But when we can take that data, and pull it in and centralize it for a business like a doctor or medical practice, they can interpret that data in ways that we would never think to at home and use it to predict concerns in health.
It's really interesting. So here at 10th Magnitude, we, obviously we tap into this massive scalability and storage of the cloud. We're, essentially an Azure-only consultancy. But let's talk a little bit more about Azure's IoT offering, Azure IoT Sweet. So what are some of the features of this suite, and how does it kind of set itself apart from the competition?
It's a really powerful suite, or it's a really powerful set of tools. It gives you the ability to send in tons and tons of data all at once. So in the case of the elderly patients, we're not just talking one home, we're talking homes across the country. So, and basically constant data, even on those particular homes. So tons and tons of data, all sorts of telemetry, and it gives you the ability to not just read that data quickly, but to save it, analyze it, and also act on it. So acting on it meaning maybe you're noticing in the example of the healthcare, somebody's weight is way off from what it was before. So 20%, nobody gains weight that quickly, unless they're holding something. So those are things like outliers, maybe misuse of the products that can kind of be either discarded or maybe need to be alerted. Somebody needs to know about that immediately, kind of thing. Those are just some of the features. Want to touch on it a little more?
Yeah, actually, I'll just run the one you were just talking about. So to make that happen, there's a couple of pieces in the IoT suite. The first one is the IoT hub on the outside. It's what gives us that scalability and that volume of handling messages. It also lets us proactively control and manage those devices out in the field by pushing out updates and things like that. It's kind of the trigger point between the real world and the cloud. Behind that, we have ASA for stream analytics. So that lets us read and interpret data in near real time. We also have the ability to store things in DocDB as part of that suite, which is a non-relational storage mechanism similar to MongoDB or one of those, so we can store high volumes of scale of unstructured data. What else is in there? There's a couple other things.
So there are a couple solutions for Azure IoT Suite. One is the remote monitoring, and that's a really powerful solution that lets you monitor remote devices, obviously. So a device in somebody's home, how's it doing? What's the data on it? What am I getting? And then what I think is essentially the culmination of that is the predictive maintenance and predictive monitoring, machine learning. So IoT.
M2M.
Exactly. So IoT, in my mind, kind of culminates in, okay, I know what's going on out there, and the next question is, what next? So machine learning is huge for that. And being able to know what's happening next, and being able to predict, where's this data taking me?
Very cool. So let's say I'm a company looking to utilize IoT, whether it's industrial or otherwise. What are some best practices to get started, and how can we help?
So best practices to get started are all going to be centered around operations and process. IoT can do a lot of great things, but if you don't know about your company and how it works, it's not going to help you very much. So generally we start with what we refer to as our 1% workshop. And in that workshop we engage for a half a day with the technical team, and we deploy the IoT suite like Mark was just talking about, so they can see the tools and get a feel for, is this right for me? But then the more important thing is we take that now informed technical team and we go to the business. And we start talking about where's your cloudiness? Where do you have obfuscation in data that if you could touch the field, you could get data faster? And then we're looking for the intersection of that obfuscation of data or slow data and profit. And when we find that there's a steady stream of profitability and a lack of data to understand where that's coming from, there's always room for improvement. And we use those as kind of a centerpiece for where do we start. For instance, looking at a large-scale retail shop that distributes food. We realized in one of our meetings there that their highest quantity of perishable goods was food for animals. And we identified that they don't know when their customers consume that food, or how much, or how fast, because they don't know how many cows or dogs they have. So with that particular model, looking at something as simple as a scale that lets them see how much food's left in the bin, gives them an opportunity to monitor that food consumption and reship or redistribute it at a new point in time. And that idea was one that the business kind of knew that understanding more about food distribution is good. They understood that knowing more, they would make more money. But in that 1% workshop, we realized that all we really needed was a real-time scale.
Yeah, huh. It's interesting. Yeah, certainly as a dog owner, I know how quickly that food can go bad.
Yes, so that's a good place to start, is just helping the technical team in the business understand what are those first steps. And that's something that we can do through a package program that either our company or Microsoft can fund a portion of and make it a low-cost, low-risk investment. Okay.
Yeah, that's definitely a big selling point there. Well, thank you guys so much. This has been a really interesting discussion. With that said, we're going to play a little game.
All right.
So this is a new component we've added to the Manhattans project. We're going to play a little bit of Industrial IoT trivia. So each of you will have 30 seconds to answer a series of the same questions. Brian, you're going to be up first. Basically, we're going to throw some earmuffs over Mark so he can't cheat, and you essentially need to answer as many questions as you can in that 30-second time. And whoever answers the most gets a special little prize. So let me grab little earmuffs here. That's the left side. Hope you like Black Sabbath. It's going to be a little loud. Hopefully you can't hear me. Is that okay?
Don't hear anything yet.
There we go.
Here it is.
All right, so if my producer could put 30 seconds on the clock. You ready to go? Are you looking? Please, okay. So what British MIT scientist coined the term Internet of Things?
Pass.
In a 1952 episode of I Love Lucy, Lucy and Ethel are working in a factory. What are they packaging?
Ooh, it was either Vegemita vitamins or I think chocolate-covered cherries.
What American car company developed the first moving assembly line in 1913?
Ford.
What does RFID stand for?
Radio frequency identification.
That's time. Alrighty, so if you want to pass those headphones over.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
It's really loud.
A little bit for the viewers at home.
Nice.
30-week share.
Alright, we're going to put another 30 seconds on the clock, and the clock starts now. What British MIT scientist coined the term Internet of Things?
Brian.
In a 1952 episode of I Love Lucy, Lucy and Ethel are working in a factory. What are they packaging?
Some sort of food item.
What American car company developed the first moving assembly line in 1913?
Ford.
What does RFID stand for?
Oh my gosh, something identification, radio frequency identification.
What late 80s dance pop group is famous for the song, quote, gonna make you sweat, everybody dance now?
Oh, DNC Music Factory-ish?
That's the time. Right in under the buzzer. So, while we calculate those results, feel free to take your headphones off. It seems like Mark was the winner there. Mark, you're going to get a sweet handful of 10th magnitude stickers, one of which is the Manhattans Project.
Perfect. I'm so jealous.
So you can also order those stickers on our careers page of our website for absolutely free. Again, thanks for a great discussion today. This has been another episode of the Manhattans Project. Feel free to follow us on Twitter at 10th Magnitude, and check out our open positions at 10thmagnitude.com/careers. That's all for now, and don't forget, keep calm and cloud on.